Welcome to another live edition of Deep Look. We are here on YouTube live every single Tuesday at noon Eastern Time. It is Tuesday, September 24th. I'm Charlie Eisenhood, the editor of Ultiworld. Joining me, Ultiworld senior editor Keith Rayner. Following Super Sunday, club regionals, and 48 teams have qualified for the USA Ultimate National Championships in San Diego. 1 month from today, it all gets started. Keith, an exciting weekend, and we're off and rolling, and we've got a lot to get to because we've got the post-regionals rankings in our hands. So we're ready to project for the top four seeds and what our pool buckets are going to be, our pool draw buckets.
It should be fun to start to get into the minutia potentially of matchups and who you want to avoid and who's hoping to draw what. That could be a fun discussion that we carry on, not just this episode. Who knows where else we'll get that in. It's funny you mentioned it's a month from nationals. I just saw a post on Instagram like yesterday or 2 days ago. It is a month from the start of the NBA season, one of our favorite times of year. It's funny that it coincides with nationals. We often have Ultiworld staff will bring their favorite basketball team gear or whatnot. I'm also going to a WNBA playoff game tomorrow night. I'm going to go see Connecticut Sun. So it should be hype. So it's full basketball going on, but I'm still locked in on Ultimate. Ultimate's in an exciting place right now.
It sure is. And we're going to break it all down right now. Let's dive in right away. We're going to start in the men's division. Let's take a look at our qualifiers from the weekend. It was a weekend of largely chalk. So I'll just run through the list really quick for anybody who's just listening on the pod. Chicago Machine gets the bid out of the Great Lakes. No surprise there. Minneapolis Mallard gets it done in the North Central. Rhino Slam wins the Northwest with Sockeye, Furious George, and Salt Lake Shrimp qualifying. And before we go further, Salt Lake Shrimp, they've been chirping a little bit, Keith. Big shout out to Deep Look Pod for always believing in us. They hit us with that. And then Cole from Shrimp quotes me, "I think Shrimp is going to get whooped by Dark Star. See you in San Diego, Shrimp emoji." To be fair, Dark Star did beat Shrimp in their first matchup at regionals. But congrats to Shrimp. Nicely done. I think this proves that the algorithm knew all, Keith, because they were as good as advertised.
The all-knowing math. Shout out to Shrimp. Hey, we love a good chirp. These are quality chirps. I'll always back that. And when you do the winning, you get to do the chirping. So come at us. We got a lot of stuff right. Coming into regionals. But we did have some misses. I think I missed on 4 different picks, which is maybe more than I would have anticipated just looking over the list. But we mostly were on it. But shout out to Shrimp for being one of the biggest teams to surprise us.
Let's go back to the list. So Shrimp last out of the Northwest. Boston Dig wins the Northeast over Pony. Pony and Goat both qualifying. A little bit of revenge for Sprout. They beat Mephisto, but then they lost in the game to go by 1. Very tough. Chain beats Ring in the Southeast. Bit of an upset there. Ring qualifies along with RDU. Truck Stop gets it done in the Mid-Atlantic. And then Bravo double wide out of the South Central and Revolver out of the Southwest. So pretty chalky I don't think they're. I guess Mallard a little bit of an upset, but otherwise, Keith, this is pretty much the list you would have made if you just picked the favorites and the bid earners.
Well, if you weren't able to come for our post game react show for subscribers that we did in Discord, you missed. It feels like we were very close to having a chaotic Super Sunday across the divisions. There were a lot of close games that ended up going the favorites' way. Some surprising ones. I mean, you look at, for example, Fungi and Double Wide playing a pretty close game to go in South Central. Southeast had some fireworks in the backdoor bracket at points. There were potential upsets. Obviously, the Northeast was rife with them. And Dark Star, the team that we both picked to make it out of the Northwest, that Shrimp is taking the place of and getting us about, they lost 2 close games to Bonneville Flat Club and somebody else, I think, to miss out. So there were a lot of ways that the weekend could have broken differently. And so I think on its face, it looks kind of boring, but it didn't necessarily feel that way in actual live play.
We got about 90 minutes ago the official USA Ultimate Post Regionals rankings. And for those who are maybe not familiar or didn't remember this, we are doing pool random draw again this year. The top 4 seeds, or the top 4 ranked teams that qualified, will get the top 4 seeds in Pool A, Pool B, Pool C, Pool D. And then there will be buckets of 4 teams after that. So, the next 4 highest qualifiers will get the Pool 2 seed slots randomly decided by bingo balls. And that draw we expect to be happening on Thursday. We will communicate exactly when that will be once we have confirmation with USA Ultimate. But let's take a look at these post-regionals rankings in the men's division. So Machine, your number 1 team overall, they will get the number 1 overall seed. Dig, the 2, Johnny Bravo, the 3, and Revolver gets the 4 seed. They just get past Ring losing to Chain kind of knocked them down a little bit. So Revolver will get the top spot in Pool D. Keith, what that means is that we will have Ring, Truck, Rhino, and Sockeye put together into the first bucket. Obviously all those teams are good, but Truck Stop certainly stands out. I mean, could we get him? I should say could. Of course we could. We have an equal chance of Machine Truck as any of these other teams. So we could have arguably the top 2 teams in a rematch of the national championship finals together in pool play.
You say that, Charlie. You say that there's an equal chance. But there's really nothing to chance here. Obviously, Truck is going to be in a pool with Bravo. Like, I mean, what are we talking about?
It must be so.
And then one of them's going to lose 2 games in pool play and then make the final. Like, what?
Yeah.
Let's just get to the good stuff.
I'll tell you what. All of those top 4 seeds are praying for Sockeye in their pool. I mean, look at the rating differential. Like there's Sokkeye's good, but I feel like if I'm a top seed, I'd rather see Sockeye than pretty much anybody else in the top 10 in my pool.
That's probably true, but I think teams are probably first and foremost thinking like not Truck. I mean, maybe
please not Truck.
Yeah, maybe you get on the opposite side of the bracket potentially from Truck, and like that could be good. But I think you're probably thinking not Truck, unless you're Bravo. Bravo may be like, we're cool with it if it's Truck.
Bring them on.
Yeah.
And I mean, Dig, like, is Dig going to be mad to see Truck? In their minds, they know they won. So the next batch will be Chain, Pony, Goat, and Double Wide. So that'll be the pool 3 seeds. Any thoughts there, Keith?
I think I saw somebody in our Discord who opened with saying like, I am biased as a Pony homer, but they don't feel like a 3 seed to me. And I guess you could probably make the argument that they feel better than Sockeye, but other than that, I don't know that there's any evidence other than just, how people's preconceived notions are of their roster, that they are so much better than the other teams there around. So yeah, I think that people are mostly going to be hoping to draw Goat or Double Wide, who have a little less
look at the rating
than
differential.
Chain and Pony. And you see the big rating gap.
Quick answer to Joe Mama's question in the chat. He says, I assume they have not changed the rules they had around the in-region restrictions for teams. That's correct. So the rule is there can only be 2 teams from one region together in a pool. So once 2 teams from a region have been placed into a pool together, if another team from that region gets, is supposed to land in that pool, they drop them in the next one. So that's something to keep in mind when we get to the random draw. Again, we believe on Thursday. The final group, the bottom seeds in pools will be Furious George, RDU, Mallard, and Shrimp.
It's an interesting group. I mean, I think that the highest seeded teams are probably the one you're the most afraid of, but I don't know. Maybe teams are seeing Ryan Osgar over there and they're worried. I'm not sure exactly what to make of the last set of teams.
It is interesting to think though, like we could end up with a pool that has, if you just want to go for scary factor, right? Machine, Truck, Pony, and I guess Furious or Mallard, Ryan Osgar, spooky
season.
But I mean,
part of this is just like having a good deep group of contenders this year. So even if were doing a traditional seeding style, right? You would somebody's getting Pony as 3 seed.
Yep. It's it just means that the benefit of being the 1 seed is basically doesn't exist, except that you get to avoid, Dig and Bravo, for instance, in your semifinals path, in theory, right? But I mean, upsets feel far more likely. I guess there's been some discussion, Keith, that this is too random, that this ignores too much data, that for instance, look at the cutoff we were talking about between Chain and Pony, who are around 1980, and then go to Double Wide, who are around 1880. Like, that's a big drop off, and yet, the higher seeded teams don't get a benefit of, seeing a Double Wide. They might get any of those teams. Is that a bad thing?
It is bad in a vacuum. Yeah, I think it's bad, but I also think that the previous alternative also had its own pros and cons, and namely, or maybe not namely, but to me, namely, that it was boring. I'm tired of 459 every year. 459, it's like, yes, it's the
What's
pool of
the
death.
Pool of death?
It would be
it's Pool
right.
D.
Oh, shock!
Oh,
It's
crazy.
It was stale. And so I think this is more friendly for the spectators. I think the thought was also that the data that we had wasn't giving us enough information to say, as cleanly as that system was, where the breaks were. That, XY, that Machine and Dig were so far apart that they needed such a distinct difference in their standing. I think there's probably another potential solution, pool drafting, but there's some sort of balance between the two. I think that we can figure out. I'm okay to try random draw. I'm a little miffed that people are so eager to throw it away when the sample size is 1 right now. We've had 1 time, and give it a chance to play out a little bit. It's literally an annual thing, so we need a little more sample to know if we like it or not.
We should do pool mock draft. Like, if we were the top seeds, who would we draft?
Let's do that next. Let's do that next
sub bonus,
or something. Yeah, maybe we'll have some folks come in and be our mock GMs or mock.
Yeah, we got to get a couple other
captains.
people. That's right.
Yeah,
I love it. I think we
draft.
should do it. I think we should do it, and we should take a look at the pools and how they compare to what we get from the random draw later this week.
I like it.
So put it on the books for next week. All right. I guess any other thoughts on regionals in the men's division, Keith? I think one note that I would have is that, a lot of top teams looked a little shaky. Not like they didn't qualify or something, but, Pony almost lost to Mephisto. They were down 4 breaks. Dig didn't look super great obviously they beat Pony pretty soundly in the finals, so maybe you say it's fine. They end up getting the 2 seed. Truck kind of didn't play super convincingly. I don't know what that means. You know, for instance, Cody Mills, coach of Pony, was not even at regionals. Like, I I I think like teams know they're going to qualify when they're good enough, and so like I don't know exactly know how much to draw from it, but I will also say that when I've seen teams look really strong at regionals, I remember the year that Goat beat Ironside to win the Northeast. They ended up doing really well at nationals as well. So I do think there's something there, but I don't know what to make of it.
To me, it probably just speaks to, again, a lack of clear favorites. Not because the teams at regionals that were giving these teams run were so good, but just that even the best teams are susceptible to bouts of play that allow other teams to hang around. Like you mentioned, Truck competing with Vault, or uh, Double I with Fungi or whatnot. Like all these kinds of matchups. I think that they say that, when we get into nationals play, would not be surprised to see some pool play upsets. Would not be surprised to see some pre-quarters and quarters games that are really tight, even for
Yep.
teams that go on to do well. We may see the team that wins the title be trailing 12-10 in quarters or something. That feels very on the table this year, especially in the men's division.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move on. We're going to go to the women's division now. Let's take a look at the qualifiers and run through them really quick. Chicago Nemesis wins the Great Lakes. Pop wins the North Central. Brute Squad takes down the Northeast alongside Bent and Sixers and Iris. Scandal, Parcha Grit out of the Mid-Atlantic. Riot wins the Northwest. Perhaps a bit of an upset there. Riot's really been on the come up. Schwa Traffic also qualifying out of the Northwest. Molly Brown takes care of business in the South Central, although a little closer than we might have thought with Austin Vengeance, 15-11 final score. Phoenix just absolutely crushes, clobbers, destroys everyone in the Southeast. And then Fury gets in alongside Flipside. Great final those two played. Fury wins by 1. So those are your women's division qualifiers. And basically no shocks here, although Iris almost lost to NCT, the Canadian Women's Masters team that is going to be competing next, in November at Masters Worlds. NCT almost did it, Keith.
Would they have even accepted the bid? I mean, probably.
Apparently
right? I don't
they
know.
were
Maybe
going
not.
to. Apparently they were going to.
Yeah, but would they have been able to field the complete roster? I also joked on our post game show that there's terrible recruiting, terrible way to recruit for your future master's program, to rip the Nationals' dreams away from a fellow Canadian team. But Irish won it the honest way. I think came out and took care of business, and I think that Northeast maybe a little less dramatic than we had expected. Outside of that, there's 14-12 Sixers over Iris. They played in crossovers, but the second place game, Bent kind of cruised past Sixers, although both had secured their position at that point. Brute beats Bent 13-10 in the front door final. Not that much drama. And across this division, I mean, we took the 20 chalk teams. They all qualified. A couple in different orders than you and I selected. And it's worth noting, Pop got a little bit of a test from Heist. We mentioned Molly Brown and Vengeance. Fury and Flipside, that's a 1-point game. So in some ways, like you mentioned in the men's division, there were some blips from some of the top level teams. And I don't know what that's going to implicate for longer down. Plus, there were some games that could have flipped the results, as I talked about earlier, that could have made it a more dramatic weekend over on the whole.
Let's take a look at the rankings and see who claimed themselves a pool number 1 seed. Here it is. Fury gets the top spot. No surprise there. They pretty much had locked it up before regionals started. I mean, look at that gap. Scandal, 150 points clear. Scandal is going to be the Pool B top seed. Brute Squad gets the top spot in Pool C, and Phoenix will get the top spot in Pool D. They did just enough to get past Flipside. Flipside played really close with Fury, but also had some closer games than they should have against other teams. And Phoenix just stomped everybody, kind of maxed out their points against a bunch of opponents. So those are your top seeds. Obviously, if it goes to chalk, we would have a Fury Phoenix semifinal and a Scandal Brute semifinal. That, of course, being a rematch of last year's national championship. Fury and Phoenix always seem to play great games at nationals, so that would be pretty exciting. Our pool pots, our draw pots, the first one, the pool's 2 seeds, is going to be Flipside, Molly Brown, Riot, and Bent. Oh, well, I mean, all tough. I feel like it's just deeper this year, Keith. I mean, I feel like Riot probably seems like they're a little over-ranked here just by the algorithm, but on the other hand, they keep winning. So maybe they're actually that good.
And if you consider them anywhere between 5 and 8, there's no team below them that I'm like, oh, that team should clearly be in that pot over Riot. I think Riot did what they needed to during the year. And I do think that it's an interesting question to me whether you're more hoping to fade Molly Brown if you're a 1 seed. Oh, I don't want Molly Brown in my pool. Or if you're more just hoping to draw Riot. Like, which one is Molly Brown closer to Flipside and Bet than Riot is to Flipside and Bet? That part's not clear to me. I think probably you're just hoping to draw Riot, but Molly Brown as your 2 seed is a tough draw. So is Flipside.
Yeah, I think Fury is probably like, we want Riot, and if we don't get Riot, we want. Do you think they want Flipside after how close the regionals game was? I feel like Fury has never lost to Flipside. Have they ever lost to Flipside?
You want the enemy,
Yeah. I think I'd rather have Flipside than Bent if I'm Fury, just because that is, the matchup. You feel very confident you're going to win. But I think it's obvious that Molly Brown, despite being the 6th seed in these rankings, is very dangerous. You don't want to face them. They might be a top 2 team in the country. No one wants to get them.
Yeah, I obviously would put them as the number 1 team in this pot. My question is just, is the gap between them and Flipside and Bent larger than the gap between Riot and Flipside and Bent? That's really the question. I think I'd probably side with the Molly Brown side, but I think you want to fade Molly Brown.
Yeah. The next pot is Schwa, Sixers, Traffic, and Iris. And I mean, immediately, right? I don't think any of those teams has a chance to win nationals. Whereas I think outside of Riot, I think I can see a case for any of those pool, first pot teams having a chance to win nationals. Not that it's likely, but there's a chance.
To me, do you think these teams could win nationals? Because I also don't. I think the question is, could you see that beating a top 4 seed? Could you see, Sixers beating Brute Squad or Schwa beating Scandal? If that's not in the possibility, then this group becomes a lot less fearsome. But if there's one of these teams that you think could get an upset over a top 4 seed, over a semifinals quality team, that's the one obviously you're worried about.
And I think I have my answer to that question. What's yours?
I think they could, and Sixers is the team to me. I think I want to fade. I don't necessarily think their median outcome is much different than the other teams in this pot, but I do think that their ceiling outcome is. I think if they play their best, they've got a couple of star players who can really become problems. So they're the team I think I'd want to fade.
Yeah, I could see the case for at least them having a high ceiling. I still think Schwa, I like their style of play. I think I would have expected them to win the Northwest, and they didn't. So I still think that they've been the best team. They've been the team that's gotten those kinds of upsets at nationals in the last 5 years. So that's probably the team I would look at. But as Steph Rapazzo points out in the chat, Aurora Leshnik of Rut and European fame is playing on Sixers this year. So you love the punch that she brings.
That's great, but this is like the third straight year they brought in some European talent to help out at regionals, and it obviously makes their team better, but it hasn't turned them into some powerhouse yet.
All right, the final pool pot, the 4 seeds will be Parcha, Grit, Nemesis, and Pop. I don't think any of the top teams are going to be scared of any of these teams. I feel like you're fine with anybody in this group, if I'm being honest.
I agree. I see a marginal difference between any of these teams. Maybe you're a little more scared of Parcho with Carolyn Normile and Linda Morse on the roster, but yeah, I'm not sure that we haven't seen it from them yet. They haven't really had that breakout game, so I don't think that one of those teams is necessarily the scariest. I think I would want to avoid Parcha if I could, but yeah, mostly I see those teams in the same rough level.
So let's construct the pool, the deathiest pool.
What's the worst case scenario?
Yeah,
for your 1 seed or just for any of the
that's
top
a good
four?
question. I think
you do
really
it for the
for
1
any
seed.
of the
What's the
top
nightmare
4.
scenario for Fury?
Okay, so the nightmare scenario for Fury has got to be
is Molly Brown, Sixers, Parcha?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, unless you again, Flipside almost beat Fury at regionals. It was a 1-point game. So maybe they really don't want to see Flipside. I know we're making they always win the game. So that said, this Flipside has the advantage of also knowing Fury very well. So
that's true. I'm not trying to discount Flipside. They're good. We also have not seen them go out and win a big game yet either at nationals. So
it's true.
This could be the year though. The talent is clearly there. Wait till our top 25 player rankings come out, because I think I've got 3 people from Flipside on mine. So
let's move on to mixed. Let's take a look at our national qualifiers in the mixed division. Hybrid takes the top spot in the Great Lakes. Dragon Thrust beats Noise in the North Central. Rally, the Stunner, they defeat AMP. AMP misses nationals for the first time in 17 years. We'll come back to that. BFG, Red Flag, Mixtape, and Moondog qualifying out of the Northwest. Exist takes down the Northeast over Slow. Sprocket gets through as well. Austin Disco Club not only qualifying, but winning the region outright. They beat Shame. Shame gets the second spot in the South Central. Space Force looking dominant in the Southeast. Nashville Shine stealing a bit again. Tough times for Toro. They get through with the second spot in the Southeast. And then Lawless winning the Southwest. Nice call, Keith. Sacramento Tower narrowly defeating Polar Bears for the second spot in the Southwest. I want to talk about that one a little bit as well. But Keith, we got to talk Rally AMP. I mean, it wasn't even close. Rally dominated.
Yeah, the what I've heard, because we actually don't have film from that game, and there's kind of a lot to talk about that game. I think that step one though is I've heard that Rally seemed to kind of have the game plan to deal with AMP. They were prepared, and that style of play wasn't a good matchup. We knew coming into the year that there was buzz around this Rally roster. It was the strongest they had looked. It felt like AMP had taken a step back. It didn't feel like that during the regular season. I think AMP vastly outperformed my initial projections, and I think in general outperformed what people expected of them for the regular season. But then getting out of the postseason, only a single bid, and you're in that clutch game. And I wonder if they were missing some of the experienced players like Raha Mazafari that aren't with the team this year, going up against a Rally team that had eyes on the prize.
So, we knew it from the start of the season. I mean, Keith, in our very first show talking about club, one of the things that you in particular were pointing out is that, AMP looked like they'd taken a kind of significant step back in terms of talent, and that Rally was going to be a very serious challenger. And then the season happened, and it seemed like things were fine for AMP. They were, playing much better than I think we expected them to, but the holes were still there. And I think Rally was able to exploit those soft spots in their lineup, and credit to them. I mean, Rally's pretty good. Like I'm not quite sure what to expect from them in nationals. They feel like they could be a sneaky team that you don't want to see in your pool.
I'm waiting to see where they're going to line up because you know, mixed division chaos is par for the course. So if they're going to end up as a low seed, I think that they're as likely as anybody else to come out and be a team that could be a bracket buster, as it were. And we're also seeing like there's some a little bit of a war of words going on social media right now. People talking about bad bids from this game, unspirited play. Apparently, Rally after the game was screaming like "fuck you" about a player on AMP. Sorry, producer, for getting us demonetized. You could bleep it or something. But I blame Rally. I mean, I think that there's a little bit of bad blood here.
Oh, I think there's a lot of bit of bad blood here. This game next year is going to be an epic. But yeah, it's some fighting going on Twitter. We have a Twitter drama channel in our Discord. we have to contain the Twitter stuff in one channel because otherwise it just goes everywhere. All right, let's take a look at our rankings and let's see who's getting those top spots. How about this? BFG gets the number 1 seed. No surprise there. Austin Disco Club, the 2 seed at Nationals. Wow. Dragon Thrust gets the 3, and Shame gets the 4. So South Central holding it down big time. And yeah, it wasn't all that close. Like Exist almost 50 points back of Shame. So those are your top 4 seeds. Again, if it goes to chalk, which we know it won't in mixed, BFG, Shame, semi, Austin Disco Club, Dragon Thrust, semi. Here is your pool 2 seats. Exist, Red Flag, Hybrid, Sprocket. Some scary teams here, but I think one is clearly the team you don't want to see.
And that's Sprocket. I mean, Hybrid.
Wait, what?
Sorry, yeah, I'm mad that I picked Sprocket to win the Northeast, and it didn't work out that way.
Obviously, Hybrid, no one's going to want to have to see them at Nationals.
No. I mean, they're I'm sure their rankings be dragged out by Pro Champs. So, that said, as from the top 8 group, again, I think this is a scary group. Red Flag in particular is a team that jumps out to me as having a high ceiling. But yeah, I think everybody's going to be on a void hybrid mode.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's the order here? Like, Hybrid scariest, Red Flag second, Exist third, Sprocket clearly fourth.
I think people would argue. I think there are people who might argue Exist over Red Flag, but I would take Red Flag as the second most scary team, personally.
So let's go to the next grouping. Space Force, Slow, Tower, and Rally will be your pool 3 seeds. This it's kind of a deep year. I feel like there's I can see Tower or Rally or Space Force making a semis run. That does not feel out of the question to me.
which is why it's wild to me, because all 4 of those teams were teams you could have credibly said we're not going to make nationals, right? Like neither of us picked Space Force, right? We were fading them after what happened in sectionals. Slow is in the Northeast. Definitely could have seen how they would have made it. Yeah, picking your big rigs or whatnot. Tower, we saw they had to escape PBR, Mischief, difficult Southwest, and then obviously what happened with Rally and Amp. I mean, from borderline making nationals to potential semifinals, like, I don't know, welcome to the mixed division.
Yep. Who you try to avoid in that group?
Nobody. Bring them on. Bring them all on.
I think it's clearly Space Force. I think the way they were playing at regionals, you don't want to see them. I could see a case for Rally though. The talent level.
I think it's Slow. I know that their regular season has not been that amazing, but I was really high on them coming into the year. So maybe I'm just falling back to my priors. I think it's Slow that I would want to avoid. Alex Rubin in the chat agrees that Slow is the scariest of the 3 seeds.
I'm telling you, all those teams could be semis teams. Let's look at the bottom quartile. Our 4 seeds: Mixtape, Lawless, Shine, and Moondog. So you got the legacy program and Mixtape. You've got an actual regional champion finishing as a 4 seed in Lawless, and a Shine team that's had ups and downs, but when they've been up, have looked really good. And then Moondog, who have cool sun hoodies.
Moondog to Semi's locked in based on that comment.
Hey, I gave a compliment.
Although that's fair. That's fair. I guess I can't really disagree with most of that assessment. I think this is a scary group. This is definitely the scariest 4C group that we've gone through, although I expected that from the mixed division. It's tough for me to pick between who I'm most scared of. I want to give credence to the legacy of Mixtape. I mean, they still have Khalif Al-Salam, who is arguably the best player in the mixed division, right? Like, that's a scary prospect to face in your 4 seed. I don't know that we have not seen it from them this year. They just have not brought it all together. Maybe, having him back from WC and fully focused is going to change things around, but I'm also scared of this Lawless team. They're a team that can heat up. That's when you've got, Travis Dunn and Lindsey Doyle and company, like, that's a team that gets hot.
I mean, they took care of business at regionals. I'll tell you that. They beat Polar Bears by 8, and they beat Tower by 5. These games were not close. And if you go back and don't get me wrong, they haven't played great the whole season. I mean, they lost to Public Enemy, they lost to Sprocket, but if you go to US Open, they played a 1-point game with Hybrid. They were in the game with Shame. It's been a weird year for them, but I agree with you, Keith. I do think that if people don't have an answer for their top players, their O-line will cook, and you could find yourself in a much closer game than you want. If you do have good matchups, I think you can comfortably beat them.
Yeah, and I think maybe you're really high on Space Force based on regionals. I think it's possible that maybe the Southeast wasn't that good. I think that could be the conclusion. And I think that's less likely to be the case for the Southwest. Although, Mischief had some fraud properties. I'll give him that.
Steve Sullivan, friend of the pod, former Ulti World editor and coach of Polar Bears, said Lawless was on fire at regionals. They are seriously athletic. So, that's the thing, right? A team like that, if they're hitting their shots, they could feel like you can't beat them. But we've also seen Lawless have horrible implosions and scream at each other and like have horrible meltdowns. So I don't know. You tell me. So let's see. Let's take a look. What's our pool of death possibilities here? Obviously,
BFG it's getting hybrid.
BFG and then hybrid. And then, I don't know, pick your poison from the next group. You think slow, right, Keith?
I think so.
And then, like Lawless?
Yeah, I'm with you that it's all pretty close together.
Or Mixtape, if you want to say that,
I think teams are going to want to avoid Mixtape
more
than Lawless.
I think more on legacy than on current facts. But yes, I hear that.
Yeah, I think teams are going to want to avoid
Mixtape. Super young this year. Super, super young. But yeah, I mean, we could have just an absolutely brutal pool. It feels like the kind of thing where like you could have a pool where like a 1 seed feels like they could miss the bracket because that's how good their matchups are. There we go. So any other comments on mixed regionals, Keith?
I think that this was the most upset heavy region, although I think also coming into regionals, there were more spots where there was some drama to be had. I think there were more positions that felt a little more up for grabs. Maybe the biggest takeaway for me is Disco Club beating Shame, despite the potential upsets. Like, Rally over Amp is obviously the biggest news, but how good can this Disco Club team be? That is that that is a win that backs up everything else that's happened in the regular season. I think they're going to be the top 4 seed that people are the most skeptical of as an unfamiliar name, but they look like a real deal as far as what we've seen.
I mean, let's look at this team. Okay, they play like a warm up tournament in June, where they lose by 1 to Public Enemy, and in the finals, you're like, all right, like they're okay. Then they go to PEC East. They go 2-1 on Saturday. They lose a game to Slow by 2 points, and then they proceed to stomp everybody in the bracket: 15-7 over Shine, 10-7 over Noise, and 12-6 over Amp, including the Chris Casella hat throw and the drama and all that. But I mean, they crushed an Amp team that had a very nice weekend. Then they blast everybody in the postseason until they get to the finals and they beat Shane by a goal. Now, beating the defending national champion in the regional final is very legit. But that said, Keith, they don't have that many games against high quality nationals teams. That's the big question mark about them. So the teams that they've played from nationals: Rally, 2-goal win; Slow, 2-goal loss; Shine, 8-goal win; and then Shame, 1-goal win. So they're not super tested because those PEC East teams, a lot of those teams didn't end up making nationals. That was very much like top selectee type tournament. But clearly they're
I
good.
do think they benefit from having a lot of players who have particularly semi-pro experience playing against top-level players and teams. You know, when you look at the roster and you see, you know, Claire Stewart and Joey Wiley and Eric Broadbeck, Maddie Cannon, Lo Guerin, like there are a lot of players who we've seen in other contexts play well even on big stages against, you know, more renowned opponents. And I think that is going to give them confidence to play like the team that they're being seeded to be.
I just think if they get a tough draw from the bingo balls, they're going to be a popular pick to fade and have an early exit. And really, that's just because they're a new team.
Yes.
But I could see it happening. Aubrey Dietrich says they good. So I trust.
Hey, they could be the next snake country, you know, like it is not unheard
Yes,
of for teams you
100%.
didn't know coming into the year to turn around and have a deep run.
100%. But teams are also going to watch the tape. They're going to get ready for this team a little bit more, and they're going to have to face tougher competition than they've seen for much of the year. So we'll see. Give us a like, give us a subscribe if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel. Did you know our YouTube channel has gone over 75,000 subscribers now? We're hoping to get to 100,000 by the end of the year. Is it crazy? Maybe, but we might get there. So help us out. We want to put a plaque. We got to put the plaque. Keith, we'll give you the plaque. You can put the plaque behind you on the wall.
We
got to get a plaque from YouTube if you get to 100,000 subscribers. We're trying to get there, so give us a sub. It's time for our trivia question of the week.
All right. This week's trivia question of the week, we actually got this one or a prompt about this one via email. So that was, we don't always get those, but appreciate that coming in from Jacob. So got an email about this one, noting that this was the first year that in a long time that we haven't had a Wisconsin team qualify for club or D1 college nationals. Uh, you know, no
Oh my gosh.
Belladonna, no Hodags, no Noise, no Heist, no Madmen, wherever you want to pull a team from. Nobody there. When is the last time that we had no teams from Wisconsin qualify for club or college championships? And because this is a tough one, I'm going to give you a multiple choice here. So I had to go back. I had to dig through the annals to find the last time this occurred. Okay. You ready for
let's
you ready for your multiple choices?
let's give them after the break. Let's let everybody
Okay.
kind of think about it for a little bit before we give the hint of multiple choice.
Okay.
It has got to be a while. That's what I will say. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get our options, our multiple choice, and we'll see if we can pick the last time no Wisconsin teams made nationals. Down bad, Wisconsin. Yikes.
Whether you're gearing up for a TCT event or Summer League, YCC competition or Masters, Breakmark can help your team get kitted out. Their bundles get you everything your team needs, and each one comes with a free reversible and 5-panel hat. Whatever your game, Breakmark.com is the place to get your team ready this season.
Welcome back to Deep Look. So we've got the question: when is the last time no Wisconsin teams qualified for D1 college or club nationals in a single year? I got no real thoughts besides that it's been a long time. So Keith, give us the options, and then we'll see if we can think through it a little bit more. You're muted, my guy. Coming out of the ad break, muted. Big mistake.
Classic. Okay. Your choices, and I'll go from most recent to furthest back here. So A, 2007, B, 1999, C, 1995, or D, it hasn't happened. It's the first time.
Ooh. All right. Well, it's not 2007. Come on now, folks. What was going on in 2007? I think the Wisconsin Hodags won college nationals in 2007, if I'm not mistaken. So that's the trap answer. No one's falling for that. So it was 99, 95,
just
or never?
That's right.
Oh. It's hard to say that it's been never. Just because, like, I don't know when the Wisconsin college programs got good, but they haven't been good forever. So I'll say my guess, put your guesses in the chat. I'm saying 95.
95. All right. I'm waiting to see if we get more in the chat here.
Joe Dweck says never. Lorcan says it's never. Batch says 99.
Get some nevers, huh?
Yeah. So go ahead, Keith.
All right. And I will say that I'm using it's funny that he's here. Steve Sullivan has a spreadsheet where he tracks every nationals appearance basically across these divisions. So also that means if something's wrong, it's Steve's fault. By my record, by Steve's records, by mine, I mean Steve's records, the answer is 1995. It's the last time that this happened. Also, looking through these teams, I see some absolutely wild old team names. It was a Wild West back in the day for team names.
Polls and polls. I don't even think Nick's was around yet. Nick's wasn't even around yet in 95.
Division name. That right. Yeah, the mixed division didn't exist then. There's some crazy team names. Well, maybe that'll be that.
Can you give us a couple?
That's gonna be. I was going to, but I'm gonna save that as a trivia question. Which of these is a real team name for a team that qualified for nationals? That's gonna be your next episode trivia question.
Give us one good one though. It's too brutal not to get one.
Okay. I'll give you the one that stood out to me and sparked me saying this. Pittsburgh women's division name. Pittsburgh Cat Stuff. I'll say, because I don't want to get us demonetized.
Oh yeah. No, that's a classic.
Pittsburgh Cat Stuff women's division team that qualified twice for nationals back in the late 90s in 99 and 98.
95. Wow. So, and then what is that? That's almost 30 years? Wow. That's it's hard to believe. I mean, in the vacuum of looking at the teams from Wisconsin this year, it's not hard to believe. None of them were favored to make nationals. I mean, the Hodags not making it is probably the biggest surprise, but they've been struggling to remain relevant as a college program. And Noise is not the team they once were, clearly. Remember when Noise made semis twice in the last 5 years? What the heck?
I mean, at the time, those were pretty surprising too.
Robin Fennig she's that, and that's why Tower is scary. Noise 1 year won like 4 games in a row on Universe to make semis. It was something crazy like that. I say 1 year. That was like 2 years ago.
I don't feel like Wisconsin Ultimate as a whole is like in a bad spot. I know we joke about down bad, but I don't feel like that. I mean, I think that just kind of the rest of the community is kind of caught up.
Yeah, but it's also that they're splitting their talent too much, and they are. I can't even say they're struggling to grow from the base because they have some good high school programs. I like Wisconsin's going to be fine. Like, I don't think we need to be too worried about it, but I do think that, when you're siphoning off your best talent off to, University of Minnesota or Carleton or whatever, like that hurts. And then you split your talent across the divisions and that hurts.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. They'll be back around. It'll happen. All right. Keith, you told us on the subscriber bonus out the back, which we did live following regionals as a little roundtable reacts on Sunday, which you can go listen to if you're an Ultra-World subscriber with any plan, including a mini, or $4 a month. You told us that you had some news to share with us on Deep Look today. So the floor is yours.
I do. And I wanted to announce that I am joining the 7,500 Club, Charlie. I'm going to be coaching the women's division team at Wesleyan this year. So I'm going D3, and it'll be my first foray into D3. But I'm excited to get started. Ironically, I haven't been able to be at practice yet. So the first time that I've even met the team was this past weekend at a scrimmage. The team that we scrimmaged, UConn, my old team. So it was
wow,
weird to walk up to the fields and feel like I was like walking up to the wrong team, but so be it. Excited for the season now.
Wesleyan finishing 9th at D3 Nationals this past year, or I should say, whatever it is, 5 months ago. Won the Metro East. Keith, you how good is this team going to be?
I mean, if I don't hold them back, pretty good, I think. Got the reigning rookie of the year. We've got a lot of returners, a lot of experience. So hopefully I can help enhance the team's ability to compete, and we can go out there and give it our best shot to make a deep run.
Scout Noble, I assume, is the rookie of the year?
Yes.
Yeah. Eight goals, 16 assists, 8 blocks at Nationals. That's pretty nice. Pretty nice. Is she the best player you've coached?
I don't have enough information to say yet, but super talented. I mean, I remember watching her at like HSNI and YCC and being impressed back then. So to get a chance to work with her and other talented athletes is definitely exciting. I don't know if I can say that yet though. I got to see more. I've had some pretty good players come through the programs.
U20 selection for juniors this past year. All right. Let's get into, we got something coming up this weekend. Not a lot of our American listeners might know this, but the European Ultimate Championship Finals are coming up this weekend. EUCF on the board, and they got the whole new structure now. They've kind of adopted the USAU algorithm. they had a season with no regionals. They just qualify based on their performance during a series of tournaments during the season. And then they kind of scrapped their old regionals based model, and they have like wild card bids and all kinds of different stuff. You can follow along with our Eurozone podcast if you want to keep up to date with how all that works. But let's take a look at the pools, Keith, and talk about who might take down EUCF this year. What division you want to start in?
Why don't we start in the women's division, because that's the one I have in front of me right now.
All right. So we take a look at our women's pools right here. Yaka, Moon Cup, Ketchup, and Jet Set together in Pool A. BFD Shout, Iseni, LMU, and Box Vienna in Pool B. 3SB, Hrut, Bristol, and Fabulous in Pool C. And Jinx Midnight, East Block, Troubles, and Woof in Pool D. What are you thinking, Keith?
Do they before we get in the individual pools? Do they also do pool draw? Do they use the same kind of pool draw?
I actually don't know. I think they do it based on the rankings, but I could probably figure that out right now just by looking at it.
Or someone in the chat will probably let us know. Yeah, I mean Ravi's here, so
Ravi's here.
I think he will tell us if there's a system here to be of note. Intriguing sets of teams for sure. It's hard not to look at Jinx and Yaka and the success that they've had over the past few years, and the rise of the women's division play and players in Germany. Think about that as being a dangerous set of teams at 1 and 4. So according to C, they might meet up in semifinals.
Yeah, looking at the rankings, Yaka coming in as pretty significantly the top team, but they're not undefeated. They are 9-2 this season. Nobody's undefeated. I think that the top teams, which really is those top 4, with maybe you can squint and see East Block and Hrut, like they are all capable of winning UCF. I think that's clearly true. Jinx Midnight's going to have their hands full with East Block in Pool D, but we watched a great game with Jinx Midnight in the Windmill final, Keith. That was a lot of fun. And I think, just the quality of the top level of women's ultimate in Europe it's never been better. This used to be kind of a sleepy tournament for the women's division with the Iseni dominating for many years, but that's not the case anymore.
No, I don't expect it. It is interesting to see also teams that I think have risen up in places where there were teams that were successful in other divisions. You look at like Moon Cup from Belgium, or Hrut from Amsterdam. Like, it's interesting to see these teams kind of popping up, and I'm curious what that impact is going to be like on the scene in the long term, but certainly what'll happen this year. And Ravi, to answer my pool draw question, not only did they do pool draw, they basically did what we did before us. We copied them. So USAU basically stole the pool draw system from the Euros.
So who you taking to semis, Keith?
Oh man. I definitely like the two teams I mentioned, Yaka and Jinx Midnight. I think I'll take,
just for those who are unfamiliar, Jinx Midnight, German. They've got Levka Walczak and Anna Gerner, Sarah Melvin. They're very good. Many of the top women's players, Nikki Prien, I should have mentioned her. Just want to give some names that people might be familiar with.
I'll take Hrut and I'll take Shout. So I think there may be some upsets along the way, but I'm mostly going to take the top seeds here.
Yeah, 3SB or Hrut. That's kind of a tough call. I'm like not totally sure if Hrut has the same roster we saw. The Floor Klartz is on there, Sarah Eklund, Lola Dam, Aurora Leshnik. That's pretty good. I think I'll take Hrut, Yaka, Jinx, and I guess I go Shout, but do I want to go 3SB? No, I'm going to go Shout. that the same four as you?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All right. And who you got winning it all?
Give me Jake's Midnight.
Okay. I'll stick with Yaka. French having a year, Keith.
That is for sure. They're definitely on it.
All right, let's move on to the mixed division. And here, half these teams I have no idea what their deal is. So Pool A, I'll do my best here. TFC Taucher, Reading Ultimate, PUC, and Savage Ultimate. Pool B, Deep Space, Disconnection, Pelt, and Heck. C is Sesquidistus, Tarta Turbulence, Nulacht Ultimate, and Sky this Vorzaya. And then Leamington Lemmings, Mosquitoes, Glasgow Ultimate, and CUS Padova Rangers. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here.
I'm definitely, like you, a bit out of my depth in this one. So yeah, I've poked around the rosters to try and find names that I recognize. I mean, it's hard for me to not be drawn to Sesquidistus from what we've seen from them in the past. I think they're one of, especially given that there are a lot of unfamiliar names for me. And this is a team that we have seen on the world stage plenty of times and has real talent on the roster with Gael Onsalon and some of the other national teams players. SPS is on the team, Justine Brew. I think that Sesquidistus is a team that I would look out for as one of the top teams, but I can't say that I have a depth of knowledge of this division here.
I will note that TFC Tauscher is undefeated. They beat Deep Space 15-12 back in the spring. And so they are by far the highest ranked team. So what that means, I don't know. I think I'm going to take Deep Space to win the whole thing, but I certainly have low confidence in that pick.
The British team, they have a couple of folks whose names I know, mostly from their trips stateside. Layla Deniston and Sarah Halkyard. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take. I'll do the same thing you did and just lean on Rising French to take Sesquidistus. But I feel like maybe we're missing on a TFC Dutcher team that we just don't know. But they have Linnea Seabird and Torben Horschmeyer. I mean, their regular season looks pretty good, but yeah, I'll take Sesquidistus still.
Fair enough.
No SPS. He's hurt, according to the chat.
I'm going to take TFC Tauscher to semis. I'm going to take, of course, Deep Space to semis. Deep Space won it last year, by the way. I'll take Leamington Lemmings. Do I know anyone on this team? I'm not sure. And then who's my fourth team? Do I want to go with you and Sesquidistus? Could. I think so. I'm just going to take it's basically the chalk. They're the top 4 ranked teams.
I mean, I'm going to take 3 of the same teams as you. I'll take Deep Space, Sesquidistus, and TFC Tauscher. And I'm going to go with Tartu Turbulence as my
okay. Wacky. All right. On to men's we go. Let's take a look at the pools. Mooncatchers, One Tribe, XVI, and Is No Good in Pool A. Clapham, 3SB, Gentle, and Quixotes in Pool B. BFD La Fota, Shock, Ranelagh, and Bad Skid in Pool C. And then Wall City, Chevron, Action Flash, Costa Rica Grandes in Grut in Pool D. So there is your list. In the rankings, Mooncatchers and Clapham, the kind of the big two, if you will. Mooncatchers undefeated this season. They won the Elite Invite. La Fota is in third, Wall City in fourth. And a lot of teams kind of like bunched up in the middle there in that kind of like 2 to 7 range. But I think really the question, let's be honest, is do you think it's going to be Mooncatchers or it's going to be Clapham?
You can't construct an upset somewhere in there.
I mean, you're welcome to. Steph
I'm
says
trying.
Isno to upset them all.
I'm looking at Wall City. Is there maybe a Wall City upset out there?
They're pretty good.
Isno, huh?
Conrad Schler's on that team.
I like both of the German teams. Maybe I even like maybe I like Batskid even more. Let me see the
They're all
Isno good
good.
roster. Let me,
Nico Mueller is on Bad Skid.
yeah.
Muellers. They're good. I mean, they're good for sure. They've been near the top before, that's for sure. Who's on Isno?
All right, I'm sold about Batskid. They're definitely
Yeah?
I'm locking them in as one of my semis teams.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay. They won 9-6 this season.
Yeah, but they had guys prepare for Worlds,
Okay. All right, well, so give us your semis picks then.
Well, obviously I'm taking Mooncatchers and Clapham. You know what? I'll just take them both. Why do I have to pick? I'm taking Batskid and Wall City to go to semis. Sorry, Chevy.
Okay. Are you taking Bad Skid to win their pool?
Sure. Yeah, I guess I have to do that, right? Or I guess I'm picking another team to not win their pool and then make it. Let me make sure I'm not being foolish overlooking Lavota here. I mean, it's who you think it's going to be. uh, Rossi, Laffy, Gasparini. Yeah, maybe I'm Luca Tognetti. Maybe I'm overlooking. Why do they have Canton Roger is on La Fota? Oh my gosh. Ugh. Okay. I'm gonna fade Wall City then. I'll take La Fota and Batskid still to make semis.
La Fota cut
La Fota
Barzazzi.
cut Barzazzi.
That's
Then
wild.
they must be good. They must be real good if they're like we don't
Brian
need it.
Jones
Barzazzi.
is coaching Wall City. Little Conrad connection. And my guy,
Oh yeah,
Joel on Wall City, shout out, worked with us at Windmill. Wall City to semis. Give me the top seeds. Come on, like I think we're gonna get those top seeds. Lafota's real, legit. They're legit, Keith. They're not losing a Bad Skid. Come on. And then finals,
yeah.
I'm taking Moon and
Now
Clapham.
I'm picking them both, so it's good.
I'm taking Moon and Clapham, and honestly, I think Clapham's going to win it this year.
All right, I was
I
hoping
can't
to take
get
Clapham.
Belgium blowing it at Worlds out of my mind.
And is it really the full Mooncatchers? They also have Paul Arders. Yeah, Demaray.
I mean, Mooncatchers is arguably better than the Belgian men's national team. Maybe not even arguably. They just are better.
I don't see any Decranas, either of them on the roster. One Yonkers. I mean, not to say they're not thin. It's not like this is a team that has no depth.
Paul Arders,
I think I'm going to side with
nice
you.
piece.
I'm going to take Clapham.
You're going to take Clapham?
I'm with you. I'm going to take Clapham too.
Okay. I think they played this year.
Oh yeah, the Decrons are on Gentle, as many people in the chat are reminding me.
No, they did not play this year. They played last year in finals. Clapham won 15-7. But the year prior, Mooncatchers won, right? I think 2022. So, hey, should be a great game if we get it.
I'm taking Clapham though. I agree that this feels like a 1-2 more than maybe the other divisions do.
Advanced Ultimate Coaching points out that Clapham and Moon catchers played at Windmill in a non-ranking game that didn't count towards these rankings that they use for the European scene now. So it was a beatdown for Clapham for what it's worth. And then Clapham got whomped by the U.S. men's national team. So, all right. Good luck to all the European teams. Should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. If you haven't listened to the brand new episode of Sideline Talk, normally I record Sideline Talk, but this most recent episode was recorded by Edward Stevens, and he sat down with Dylan Tennell, the legend, who is still heavily involved in Ultimate, and it's great. Have you listened to it, Keith?
I have. He talks, about the Chain Glory days. He talks about coaching and at UMass. He talks about working with the selection process for WC teams, about his own experiences with World Game teams. It's really he's had a pretty storied career.
Absolutely, a tremendous player too. Remember when he won the AUDL MVP? That was awesome.
He laughs about that in the episode. He's like, I can't believe they gave me that MVP.
So give that a listen. It is available for Ultiworld subscribers with your private RSS feed, and you could get that and all of our bonus pods here on Deep Look and all of our other subscriber bonus editions, along with lots of other benefits. Coming soon, I did a sideline talk. This past week, I sat down with Goose Helton and did a sideline talk and talked with Goose about his career. And of course, as many may know, the injury that he had in the motorcycle accident that's had him in the hospital for like almost a year, at least I think 8 or 9 months, many dozens of surgeries, and kind of about his path back to being able to be out of the hospital and be walking and be managing to kind of get back to daily tasks and things like that. So that will be coming very soon. We have our mailbag question of the week for our last little segment here. What is it this week, Keith?
All right. Well, this week's mailbag question comes from Jeremy Z in the Discord. It's a pretty simple one. Very simple. What the hell are we doing with these caps? I think this is in reference to some of the capped games at regionals, particularly bid deciding games, games to go, as it were. What is going on with some of these caps? Charlie, I know you have feelings on this topic.
All right. First of all, we have figured this out. We do a +1 soft cap. That's all we need. Now, if you have a tournament that requires really strict, rigid time rules and you don't have room to have like a 2 hour and 15-minute round window, then maybe you need to have kind of like an emergency hard cap just to make sure stuff stays on schedule. But for like regionals and stuff like that, can we please just do our +1 soft caps that we have like put into the rules now 3 or 4 years ago and work just fine? There is no reason we can't just do that always. Number 2, what are we doing in the Southwest? Did you know, Keith, the last round of bracket play for games to go, okay, determining games were shortened due to heat level 2. Not only did they add heat timeouts, but they also shortened the cap from 90 minutes down to 70 minutes. So what happens? Tower and Polar Bears go to halftime. They come out of half, and there's 8 minutes to cap. Tower wins 10-8 in the cap, and like none of the spectators knew, nobody knew, and it was just a horrible, terrible ending. That for what? Because it was 92 degrees. It wasn't like 100 degrees. It's a whole separate topic to talk about the whole heat thing that we've been doing lately. But please, if you have a heat timeouts and stuff, that's enough. Do not also shorten the game. Let's please play the game in the most important game of the season. In fact, you should extend the caps to account for the fact that you have heat timeouts. I don't understand. Like, can we please play the game? These are adult human beings who can go into the shade and drink water. It is not required to baby them with all of these rule changes in the biggest game of the season, with no other games coming up later in the day. So I'm annoyed. I think players are annoyed. I think coaches are annoyed. I think everybody's annoyed. So please God, can we just do +1 soft caps?
It's like wild now to think.
This is even more clown. Okay, hang on. I'm sorry. I have to keep going. Steve Sullivan, coach of Polar Bears, says every point was given an extra minute in between points, which is just a waste of time. That's not doing anything. People just stand on the line in the sun, so it doesn't do anything to cool anybody off. And they were not told about the adjusted cap of 70 minutes until halftime. What the? I'm not going to get us demonetized, Keith, but that is absolutely unacceptable clown stuff from whether it's the observers, the TDs, USAU, I don't know, but that cannot happen. Cannot happen.
The heat timeouts, like you mentioned, are a separate thing. I mean, I remember when we started switching to +1 cap, and now it's like hard to imagine going back to +2. Like +2 seems so archaic. It seems like cavemen played with +2 cap. What was it? So there's old school folks in the chat. What was the old cap rules? When they used to play to 21? What was the cap? Just if you physically can't put 7 players on the field, we're done.
People still think there's overtime. They're like, hey, if this goes to 14-14, is it game to 16? It's like, no. There has not been a game to 16 in like 5 years.
Everybody gets your time. You get your timeouts back, you know? I look, overtime was, I didn't hate the concept of overtime, but yeah, the +2 seems like just not a healthy choice. Why did we do that for so long?
Shout out to Brent in the chat who says we played to 22 in the 1990 semifinals.
Oh, kids don't know that they used to play games to like 21. They used to play games to 21 and apparently 22.
Oh my gosh. That's wild. Brent says, to be fair, it's not you that would get sued if something happens. I mean, look, I'm not saying we don't need to have heat rules to protect players in cases where the temperature really gets to a dangerous level. Like if we're talking about temperatures over 100 degrees, maybe you shouldn't be playing. But like at some point this season, I was just talking with Edward Stevens about this. There was a heat level 1 when it was 77 degrees outside at a tournament this year. Like if you're getting heat level 1 and the temperature is not over 80 degrees, it just doesn't, what the system you're using is wrong, or that the equipment you're using is wrong. That just cannot be. We play an outdoor sport in the summer. It's hot.
I feel like I'm a little more conservative in the sense that like I'm willing to defer to expertise on when it is safe to play. I think players are not necessarily a great judge of when they are when they are being safe. So if there is medical data to say exerting yourself extensively in XYZ conditions is dangerous, then that is what I would defer to. But I will say that where we're at now seems a little overwrought. Like we missed the plot a little bit.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree that adding a minute between points definitely feels like a waste. Like that just feels like it's wasting people's time.
It makes no sense. Makes no sense. Unless you're going to require people to like sit in a shade tent with a mister every time there's a break. There's like, if people are just standing out in the sun, we're not actually solving the problem you're claiming you're solving. You're just adding time to the game for no reason. All right. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you being with us. We will be where our sub bonus this week was recorded on Sunday, so check it out. We're going to do a mock draft, pool seed draft. Like if all the top seeds in nationals got to draft their opponents, we're doing that next week on the sub bonus. I cannot wait. Later this week, hopefully Thursday, that's the expectation, we will have our bingo balls drawn live on a special edition of Deep Look or something similar. So we'll be back with you for that. And until then, talk to you next time.
Let's go. go Connecticut Sun. We're gonna get that dub. Caitlin Carr can't mess with us.
Liberty gonna clown all y'all.
That's probably true.